Hi, Evan from the Nerdy Gardener here. Today we'll be creating new rosemary plants cheaply by growing cuttings taken from a parent plant. The resulting plants will be clones of and share the same characteristics as the parent plant. The best time to take and grow cuttings from rosemary and most other plants is during spring or early summer when the plants are actively growing and the weather is warm. There's a few things to consider when selecting which branches to take cuttings from. To achieve a good strike rate, you want to take healthy, young branches from plants that aren't currently flowering or producing seeds. Cuttings taken from plants that are flowering will have less energy to devote to root formation. If you have no other option and can't find any material without flowers, you can simply pinch off the flowers before you make the cutting. But your cuttings may not have as good a strike rate as you would get if you used material from plants that weren't in flower. Cuttings taken from older, more woody branches will take longer to root than cuttings taken from younger growth. They're more likely to dry out and die before they have a chance to form roots. So avoid taking cuttings from old woody growth. You also want to avoid taking any branches that are damaged, show signs of disease or pest infestation, or that have yellowing leaves, as all of these will reduce your chances of growing healthy new plants successfully. Avoid taking cuttings from plants that are wilting as well. If you can, water the plant you're going to take cuttings from a few hours before taking your cuttings so that they aren't water stressed. All my rosemary plants are currently in flower, so I'll take a few of these healthy, newer green branches that don't have any flowers on them. If you're not planting out the cuttings straight away, it's a good idea to moisten the leaves and wrap them in plastic to keep them humid and alive until you can get home to plant them. For rosemary, we're aiming to create cuttings about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters long. Once you have one, you can use it to gauge the size of the rest. With your cuttings, you want to cut the top at a 45-degree angle. This will help you keep track of which end's the top. If they're planted upside down, the roots won't grow correctly. It also has the added advantage of letting water run off the top of the cutting instead of pooling. If the water pools on top, it may cause rot. For the tip cuttings, I like to chop off the very tip. This will encourage the young rosemary plant to put on new branches, instead of continuing to grow straight upwards. You then want to remove about half the leaves from your cutting. For cuttings with an older, more woody stem, you can strip half the leaves off by pulling backwards while applying pressure with your fingers and your thumb. Tip cuttings with a softer stem will be damaged if you do it this way, so instead pull the leaves upwards. Pulling them downwards like before will scar the stem. It's important to remove these lower leaves from your cutting. If they're left on, they'll rot under the soil, and the rot can spread to the main stem and your cutting will end up dying. Removing some of the leaves will also reduce the amount of water the plant needs to take up to stay alive while the roots are forming. If your cuttings are wilting and dying, you're either not watering enough or you have left too many of the leaves on the cutting. We'll be planting the cuttings into these forestry tubes filled with potting mix. To start with, you want to make a little hole with a diver or a stick. This is just another piece of rosemary. By making the hole, you won't damage the end of the cutting when you try and push it into the soil, which will reduce the chance of rot. The potting mix has been pre-moistened. Then you want to plant your cuttings firming down around them. Only plant your cuttings as deep as they need to go to sit stably in the pot. If you plant the cuttings too deep, they may rot. When you're planting the cutting, ensure at least one node, that's the point at which the leaves come out of the stem, is underneath the soil, as this is where the new roots will form from. By firming down around the cuttings, You ensure that the base of the cutting gets a good solid connection and is able to take up water from the damp mix around it. Now that all the cuttings are planted, we'll water them again with a light mist, and again every day thereafter for about 2 weeks. By 2 weeks' time, the roots should have started to form, and you can reduce the watering to every second day from that point. In about a month, you'll have a nice new strong healthy rosemary plant with a good strong healthy root system ready to plant out into your garden. Unfortunately, not every cutting will make it, so be sure to plant a few extra to account for losses.